Okay, Mayor, all set.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jerry Peterman, the mayor of the city of Graham. I'd like to welcome everybody to our December the 8th, 2020 Graham City Council meeting. For this meeting, the city of Graham is convening by Zoom video phone conference. You may dial 253-215-8782 and enter the meeting ID, which is 881-0365-9946. Zoom information is posted to the City of Graham's website identifying how the public may join. Due to the pandemic, this meeting is held by the Zoom platform. The meeting will be live streamed in the City of Graham's YouTube page at www.youtube.com and type in City of Graham, North Carolina. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. If anyone is having technical difficulties or connection difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 347-8674 for support. For items not on tonight's agenda, public comments to address council at this meeting, please indicate that you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in the Zoom, or if by phone, press *9, and our meeting host will notify me that you wish to speak. As a preliminary matter, I'd like to confirm that all the members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. For your information, 4 of our council members are present. One of them is at home, and she will do it by Zoom also. Members present, Mayor Pro Tem Chip Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Melody Wiggins.
Here.
Councilmember Talley.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Ricky Hall.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Staff participants, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. City Manager Frankie Manus.
Present.
Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland.
Here.
City Attorney Brian Coleman.
Here.
City Clerk Darcy Sperry.
Here.
Planning Director Nathan Page.
Present.
Downtown Development Coordinator Mary Fawcett.
Present.
IT System Manager Jeff Wilson. I know Jeff Wilson's here because he just left just a few minutes ago, so I'll answer for him. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please bow your head for our invocation? For this day and all of our blessings, we thank you. For this city, state, and country, we thank you. For our friends and family, and for those that protect us, work to keep us safe, work to keep us happy. And for all of you out there, we thank you. In this heavenly name we pray, amen. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have our consent agenda. Approval of minutes to November 10th, 2020 regular session. B is approved tax releases. C is petition resolution adopted Title IV of the implementation plan of the city of Graham. 4 is to approve the redirection of approved funding for the facade grant. Does anybody want to pull any one of the 4 of the consent agenda?
Mayor, if you could pull C and D.
Anyone else? Then I need a motion to approve A and B of the consent agenda.
So move. Second.
Thanks, sirs. All in favor? I'll poll the council. Councilmember Turner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Aye.
Councilmember Talley?
Aye.
Councilmember Hall?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Let's go back to Jennifer. The petition resolution adopting the Title IV implementation, that word plan of the city of Graham. Jennifer, what's your concerns?
I read the staff report. I was just kind of confused as to why we haven't ever had this.
Let's go to Frankie. Frankie, do you have a reason for that?
We have some policies in place. Obviously, we have policies related to employment. We're also a member of the Burlington Grand Metropolitan Planning Organization as it's relative to transportation planning, which is the impetus for the action tonight. They also have a similar plan in which we are a participant. So we do have some safeguards in place, some policies in place already, but the comprehensive plan that is being requested by NCDOT was absent, and this will solidify our standing and compliance with the law. Aaron has done most of the research on this and may be able to elaborate if you have anything to add, Aaron.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what you just said, being part of NPO and them having this in place, the assumption was that that was going to cover us as well as being a member jurisdiction. But NCDOT said that that wasn't sufficient and we would have to have our own because we may have a project separate from the NPO. So what this would do is make it where we are compliant and are no longer out of compliance with NCDOT or the federal highway folks as well.
Okay. Is there some sort of project that is coming up in which this had to be done, that this is specific to, or is it just something that you realized they were doing an audit or whatever and somehow caught that it needed to be implemented?
We're in the same boat as many other municipalities across the state. This is a common topic on our listservs. Folks putting together their plans did not realize they did not have one that was compliant. No particular project that caused this. We do, however, submit several projects each year through the NPO, pedestrian projects or other transportation projects, and we've scored quite high. So we certainly would not want to jeopardize our standing, get some of those funds for transportation projects by not having a plan that, well, frankly, we believed we had in place.
Okay, so the only other question I had was, is the wording, the standard wording that they have put together for us, and is it similar to what like other surrounding municipalities have, or is it something that we authored specifically?
No, it's almost verbatim to other places.
Template. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I was just wondering if it was because I know that we have gotten plenty of funding all this time, and it just seemed odd that that would have come up. So that was my question. It wasn't really clear from the staff report what had happened.
Any other council member have a question on C of the consent agenda? If not, I move you to page 16 and ask for a motion from the council.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
Thank you, sir. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you all. All in favor? I'll poll the council. Chip Turner, please.
Aye.
Melody Wiggins.
Aye.
Jennifer Talley.
Aye.
Ricky Hall.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. Let's go to D, approve the redirection of approved funding for the facade grant. Jennifer, questions on that?
So when would that project going to the survey, the architectural survey, when would that get started?
I'm not sure of the exact date. Obviously, it would have to be on this side of the budget calendar since the funding that's already allocated is for this budget year. Maybe Nathan or Mary, because I know Alexa had worked on it, so they might have more insight as to how soon we might be able to get out there and find out some qualifications from some consultants. Nathan, you have any add on that?
The goal would be to do it as soon as possible. The Historic Resource Commission has been pushing for this for a while, and as you all are aware, the last update to the architectural inventory is actually now old enough to meet the standard for historical significance. It was last done in the 1980s. So we would want to get that done ASAP. And if it was authorized by the council, I would anticipate us doing some sort of request for proposals from someone who could do that within a week or two.
So we hope to be able to spend all of that money by June 30th then, is that right, Nathan?
That's correct. It'd be part of this budget year. Yes, ma'am.
And you said you would divide it into two parts, right? So you anticipate using the money next year also for the update as well?
It would depend on how much the actual amount came back at. I would always prefer to say that my estimate is high and have a low response and be able to save some money for the city. It would be frustrating to come back and say, hey, they said it was slightly more than whatever our quote was the last time we got a quote. I believe our most recent quote was 2 years ago. As Aaron said, Alexa did work on this while she was here. So this has a little bit of extra funds in it, and yes, it would carry over 2 budget years as is indicated in the staff report.
Okay, and the total amount for this budget year is how much?
It reallocates the existing allocation to the Historic Resource Commission. I believe that was slightly north of 15,000.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other council member have a question on D? If not, I'd move.
A motion to approve
I
item D.
second.
Thank you, and thank you. I'll poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you. That's our consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to remind everyone in the council chambers to, since you have masks on, you're gonna have to get close to the microphone.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I will get a little closer. Next, we go to old business number 2. A is a public hearing, AN 2004 Cherry Creek Annexation Ordinance for voluntary non-contiguous annexation. Let's see here. I'll go to Aaron for this, please, Aaron. But first, let me read. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate that you wish to do so by using the raised hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having trouble, technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674. He will provide comments to be read. At this time, I would like to recognize Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland, who will present this item. Aaron, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The requested action is to approve the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham for 5 lots off of Jimmy Kerr Road. The 70 plus or minus acre area being considered for annexation is non-contiguous. While sewer is on the lot, the applicant anticipates extending municipal water service to the location. The annexation process has multiple steps. Following a public hearing, approval of an annexation ordinance is the final step for in the annexation process. The fiscal impact of the proposed development will vary greatly depending upon the potential conditions approved by the council. If the lot sizes are required to be no smaller than 12,000 square feet as recommended by the planning board, they will cost more to serve than they will return in revenue, and therefore will not support urban services. If the northern part of the neighborhood is 5 dwelling units per acre or more, and the southern portion of the neighborhood has larger lots, a revenue balance is possible. Since this item was last heard by City Council at the October 13th meeting, staff has met with the developer to discuss options for council to consider for the request. Inasmuch, staff recommends momentarily delaying the decision of the annexation until after evaluating what the design of the neighborhood will be following discussions of the rezoning and subdivision public hearings. The annexation request will need to be revisited and voted on prior to any action taken on the rezone and subdivision items. So to kind of clear that up, basically, we need to go to the conditional rezoning subdivision portion and decide on whether council wants to move forward with the conditions that they're wanting to bring for council tonight? And if so, before voting on that, we need to come back to the annexation and then vote to either annex the property in the city or not. That way we don't annex a property in that isn't zoned, if that makes any sense. So staff recommends moving to the rezoning portion, discuss it, and then come back to the annexation part.
All right, let's go with questions for the staff. We'll start with Councilmember Wiggins, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your staff report, gentlemen, we have your recommendation to approve with conditions. Can you explain those conditions for us, please?
Well, I think the conditions are part of the rezoning portion of the request. So.
Okay, I'm at the rezoning. I'm in 2B. And that recommendation is approval with conditions. So my question is, what exactly were the conditions that you were looking at? I see from the planning board what their recommendations were, but I'm not seeing where the staff actually said what the conditions were.
Councilmember Wiggins, I apologize. That was my oversight. It was the 5 dwelling units per acre on the portion that is within the identified North Carolina Commerce Park. That the street subs to the east connecting to the North Carolina Commerce Park be prohibited. So those are the two, that the density on the northern side is 5 dwelling units per acre or greater, and that the street subs to the east connecting to the North Carolina Commerce Park be prohibited.
All right, so the density of the 5 dwellings is in what section, the north?
Yes, ma'am. North of the portion that the city of Graham owns. If it's helpful,
Okay.
I have a map here. It's the portion that is browner.
Okay, great. That's my only question for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Hall,
I don't have any at this time, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No questions.
Councilmember Talley.
This is probably a question for a later time, but has anything from it was really difficult to read those maps on the small screen that I had. And I know they had talked about having the lot lines between the lot line and the house be 5 feet rather than 3 feet. Is that something that the developer is still proposing? Because I really could not, I tried to zoom in on it and I still couldn't read it.
Okay.
It appears that it says a 5-foot minimum side yard.
Okay, 5 foot, okay. I'm sorry, I tried to look that up, but I just couldn't zoom it in far enough to read it. All right, and there were no other changes really that I could see other than the buffer that they added that the city wanted. Is that right, Nathan?
The developers here and might be better to answer that question.
We'll go to them next, Jennifer, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Is that all the questions for the council to the staff? At this time, this is a public hearing. Please state your name and address for the record once you're called upon. You ready, Jeff?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Tony Tate has his hand raised.
Mr. Tate, please come in with us. Nice to see you, or nice to hear from you, sir.
Thank you all, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Tony Tate. I'm a landscape architect and land planner with TMT LA Associates, and our address is 5011 South Park Drive, Suite 200 in Durham. And thank you for allowing me to come back tonight to bring this project back before you. This is one that we've all seen multiple times, and I want to be cognizant of your time, respectful of your time. And so I'm happy to go into as much of it as you want me to. We do have minimum 5-foot side yard setbacks. And so that was something that Councilwoman Talley asked us to make sure we did. We did that. The other change, other than increasing the density on the northern portion of the site, was we added the buffer on what is the east side between what will be the Commerce Park. There's a 40-foot landscape buffer along that side. And we also added a landscape buffer to the street yard on Cherry Lane. So those two items we did add. And so the rest of the site is pretty much the same as it was before. And so I'm happy to answer any more questions that you might have or go into it as much as you would like me to at this point. But again, we've all seen it multiple times, and I want to be respectful of your time.
Thank you, sir. Let me poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem, you got any questions?
No, sir.
Councilmember Hall,
No, sir.
Councilmember Talley,
No, sir.
Councilmember Wiggins.
So I do have a question for Mr. Tate and for Nathan on this. So my understanding is that now these items, the buffer, both buffers, the 5-foot minimal side yard, and the increased density are all in the proposal. Is that correct? And we are still looking at 175 dwelling units. Is that correct?
No, the unit count now is 185 units.
Thank you.
And
That's all I
yes,
have.
the other items that I mentioned are part of the plan that you're approving tonight.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Wiggins, I would agree with that, that all of the previous conditions that were recommended by staff have been attained by this site plan.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay. On page 50, it does say 175 dwelling units.
That's also the staff report from the September City Council meeting. It was revised to add the buffers, the additional density to the northern part, and the 5-foot setback as requested.
Is that all the questions for Mr. Tate?
I have one more, please,
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
would. Regarding the connection, the interconnection and those stubs. Now, we've taken care of that as well. Is that true as well?
That is correct. Those modified cul-de-sacs down there pointing to the east stop prior to going to the buffer. And so they will not be connections to the east. That is correct.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Mr. Tate? Then we'll go back to Jeff. Jeff, have you got anybody else?
No, sir, not at this time.
If we not have anybody else,
Actually, Mr. Mayor, one person raised their hand.
okay.
Stephanie Ward, you've been unmuted. Go ahead.
Ms. Ward, let me have your name and address, please, if you would.
Stephanie Ward, 2072 Jimico Road.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so is this the part where residents are supposed to be notified of any zoning issues? Or
No,
conditions?
ma'am, that was passed. We've worked on this now 3 months, so
Well, we have, I've yet to receive anything in the mail, even from the very beginning.
Ms. Ward,
And
you've been
I
at
know
every
that I've
meeting, so
been-
you did know about it. So, you know, we're happy to notify you again, but I mean, you've been at every meeting.
Well, I
So-
have, but I just want you to know that for some reason, the tax people are able to find me, but you are not. So, so the next zoning, are we gonna add any more houses to this? Because it's getting more and more. This is a concern.
I cannot answer that. I cannot predict what the council will vote on, whether they vote on it tonight and do it. You'll just have to wait and see on that one. But again, I think the notification has been proper because you've been here every night.
Well, just because I've been here though, doesn't mean that the notification was correct. I mean, me being at a city council does not mean it was because I was notified of something else happening.
Okay.
So,
Do you have any problems or any concerns other than what you've already listed with us?
well, I do have another comment because it seems that, and this is somewhat to do with this, but the comment was where the Commerce Park will be. So it almost sounds like it's a decision has been made for the Commerce Park to be next door.
Yes, ma'am. The Commerce Park is there now, and it's being occupied by quite a few businesses. And the reason we're
It's an
putting the
empty
stubs
field.
in and the reason we're putting the buffers in is to protect the Commerce Park that the citizens of Graham have spent millions of dollars on.
The Commerce Park, the one that's vacant right now, is that the one we're talking
The
about?
Commerce Park itself is not vacant. That section or that plot is vacant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Anybody else, Jeff?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
That being said, we'll close our public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind, can we hold that public hearing open? Just keep the matter open and move on to the next item.
Are you talking about moving on to B?
We actually are in B. Are you talking about moving back to A?
Well, I think we need to go through the annexation, but hold that open, go through the rezoning, hold that open. Don't close the public hearing. Go to the subdivision approval, talk about that and hold that open, and then come back to the annexation. We need to have the property annexed before we can make any decision on it. So it's just a good idea to hold it open. It's not.
Okay, let's do that then. So which one would you rather vote on first? A, B, C?
I think we got to go through and talk about, was there any discussion on, so we were in B right then, right? We didn't talk about the annexation, right?
Correct.
Right, we floated over into B.
Okay, let's move on to C at this point, I guess.
All right, C is Cherry Creek, application by Tony Tate for.
I'm sorry, is there not a subdivision? I'm sorry, I may be wrong. There wasn't a subdivision approval on there? There was
It
just.
is. It is.
Item C is the subdivision.
Right, it is the subdivision on C. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
2C.
2C, yeah.
So, well, okay, we'll go to 2C and questions for the staff on 2C. I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions.
Councilmember Hall,
No questions.
Councilmember Wiggins,
No, sir.
Councilmember Talley.
None for the staff.
I have no questions. So let's go back to Mr. Tate. And let's go to Councilmember Hall. Have you got questions about the subdivision for Mr. Tate?
No, sir.
Councilmember Wiggins, have you got any questions?
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No, sir.
Councilmember Talley.
Mr. Tate, when we last spoke, you had talked about your desire to really only put in 175 homes in this development. What changed your mind to add the additional 10 homes?
Am I unmuted currently?
You are.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
you
Mr.
are.
Tate. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
There was concern with the staff that the project was not going to meet the economic milestones that they needed to come to for this project to be, in their minds, viable to the city and it'd be profitable for the city when going out and extending water and sewer and those types of items. And so in an effort to meet with staff and to get those numbers where they felt like they were comfortable with there being enough units there to satisfy their economic portion of the project, we increased the lot count to 185 units.
Okay, and so do you have less open space? Is that where you where you added the additional 10 homes, or did you decrease the lot size, or what did you do to get those additional 10
We
homes?
decreased the lot size and made some 40-foot wide lots, a different product to get the unit count up. The open space is virtually the same as it was before. We just worked within a section of the project that where we needed to increase the density. virtually all the open space stayed the same.
But you would have been fine with keeping the 175 homes. Is that correct?
Well, and that was our original proposal. So, I mean, we would have been fine with that, but we're willing to work with staff and come to a project that they feel comfortable with. We want to be good neighbors, and we want to be in the future not a net drag on the coffers for the city of Graham. So we were willing to up that to help out the city of Graham in their future concerns about the economics of a property in that location. So
Yeah, I would just guess that the neighbors around there would prefer to have less homes than more homes, and 10 homes. Maybe that doesn't make a big difference to the financials as much as it does to the look of the neighborhood and smaller lot sizes and things like that. Just seems like, I personally am trying to look out for the people that live here, and I just feel like developers are constantly having to work against what staff is trying to cram as many houses as possible into a specific space. And that's just not the direction I want to see development in Graham go. But that's just my personal opinion. And I appreciate you trying to bring a good development here to Graham, a quality development here to Graham. And I have concerns for the remainder of the neighborhood out there. I've talked to people out there that are concerned about the neighborhood there and all the development that's happening there. But I know the alternative is to even have even more homes, like what they just did with another 70 acres of having almost 400 and some homes. So I guess 185 is better than 400 and some homes. So I appreciate what you're trying to do here in Graham, and I appreciate your patience with us, and I look forward to seeing your project.
thank you, Commissioner Talley. I would like to say, just to reiterate that, when we did add those extra units on the north side, we did add the 40-foot landscape buffer to the east and the landscape buffer along Cherry Lane, which I think would help to visually mitigate the additional houses there. And again, the neighbors that are across Back Creek there, we didn't get any closer to their house, so we're not encroaching on that open space anymore. So, we kind of backed up a little bit and provided some landscape buffering that should help to mitigate those additional homes. We hope it will anyway.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Tate? Jeff, have you got anybody else that wants to speak?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, not at this time.
Now, I'll ask Brian, can I close the public hearing now?
I'd keep this public hearing open and jump back to the annexation and talk about that. And I don't know if we even opened the public hearing on that, but
Of course, that was the first one I opened.
okay, well, then we need to go back to the annexation and make a decision, or close the hearing, or see if there's any more comments, and then make a decision on the annexation.
All right, let's move to A. That was the first ones I opened, and we've talked about that. So I'll move the council to page 39 and ask for a motion from the council.
Mr. Mayor, I
Make a
move
motion, we
the
approve.
annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham, North Carolina for portions of 5 lots, making up approximately 70 acres in the vicinity of Sugar Ridge and Jimmy Carl Roads.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank y'all. All in favor, say, wait a minute, I'll poll you. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Tally,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. That's A. Next, we'll go to B, public hearing. We'll open the public hearing and go to the staff. Staff, have you got anything else to add on the public hearing CR 2003?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Does anybody, Jeff, have you got anybody that wants to speak on B?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Then I'll move the council to page 58 on their agenda and ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the application be approved. The application is consistent with the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan. The action is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. Rezoning the property would be in consistence with policy 3.2.4 and strategy 4.2.1 of the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Tally,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Now we'll open the public hearing on S 2004 Cherry Creek application by Mr. Tony Tate. Have we got anything else to add for the staff?
Just that the subdivision is a use by right once you approve the zoning, so this one almost is an administrative approval rather than a legislative approval.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the staff? Jeff, have you got anybody else that wants to speak?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Then let me move the council to page 64 on your agenda and ask for a motion from the council.
I move the application be approved. It is consistent with the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan. The action is reasonable in the public interest as it will increase available housing.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
I second it, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I'll poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Wiggins.
Aye, but I do have a question quickly.
Yes, ma'am.
The recommendation is not, as was scripted. Do we need to go back and get the right script?
Let's do that. Let's get it right before we move on. Let's go to, is it Brian or is it the staff?
It would be on page 61 is the proper script.
Councilmember Tally had quoted from the planning board, which would be sufficient if they had identified one of the policies or strategies that were referenced. 4.2.1 would seem to align with what Councilmember Tally was identifying in this one.
All right, go back to Jennifer. Jennifer, are you all right with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we amend the motion. Nathan, can you write that down? Or Darcy, I think you'll have to do that for us, please.
Got it.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's see who seconded that. Who was the second?
Hall.
I was.
Ricky, are you all right with that
Yes, sir.
change? Then I'll poll the council again. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Tally,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Mr. Tate, good luck with this. We're pulling for you, sir. All right, next we have D is a public hearing, AN 2006 Steelhouse Farms Annexation Ordinance by Voluntary Contiguous Annexation. Aaron, are you handling this for us?
Yes, sir. The requested action is to approve the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham for a lot located off Moore Street and Cheeks Lane. The area being considered for annexation is contiguous along the north side. Water and sewer lines are adjacent to this location, and the applicant wishes to tie onto city's infrastructure. The annexation process has multiple steps. Following a public hearing, approval of an annexation ordinance is the final step for council in the annexation process. Staff does recommend approval.
Questions for the staff? Councilmember Hall, let's start with you, sir.
I have none at this time.
Councilmember Tally,
None at this time.
Councilmember Wiggins,
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No, sir.
and I have no questions. Jeff, have you got anybody that wants to speak on this?
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that you read the public comments flip about Preston.
Yes, sir. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate that you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 to provide your comments to be read. Since I
Mr.
left that out, let's give a few minutes or a few seconds for somebody to call in.
Mr.
Who had a
Mayor,
question? Go ahead, Nathan.
yes, sir. While we're waiting on that, I just wanted to bring to the council's attention that this same parcel has had an application for a conditional rezoning. If you remember, we rezoned the townhome portion towards Cheeks Lane in 2015, and the application is for the same. It's to rezone to more townhomes. The change is to go to a 2-story townhome instead of a 1-story townhome. The council won't see that until the next meeting, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that is out there.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, not at this time.
Thank you, Jeff. Then we'll close the public hearing and we'll talk among ourselves. What does everybody think about D on the old business? Anybody got any comments, council-wise?
Well, this was already done 15 years ago. This is just a matter of a stamp of approval to annex them.
Yes, sir.
That-
Yes,
that's all
ma'am.
this
Excuse me.
is.
It's contiguous, it's already
Yes.
touching another property, so
Concerns, Mr. Hall?
no, I have none at this time.
Jennifer, concerns?
No, no concerns. I just know that there's a lot of people out in that area. I was just kind of confused that have we heard from any of the neighbors or anything like that out there?
I was here in 2015 when this was started, and I'm sure we heard something, but I don't remember it. But this is just a change in the floor plans, it looks like. And it's a contiguous annexation, which looks like the staff is all right with it, which means it's going to be, it will not cost the citizens of Graham anything to bring this in.
Mayor Peterman, I apologize. I misled the council. The rezoning portion for the 2-story townhomes will be on your next agenda. This is the annexation for that portion. As you said, it was originally approved in 2005 and then amended in 2015.
Approved in 2005. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, with that being said,
Well, when he says was approved in 2005, what was approved in 2005?
Again, I apologize. There's a rezoning that will come before the council next month. It was originally approved in 2005 as Stillhouse Farms and had single-family detached homes and then a townhome portion. That has been applied for an amendment that will come before the city council next month. I know you guys like to be aware of those things where they pop up because somebody may call about it or something to that effect.
Okay, but they weren't going to come into the city. They were just going to rezone it, build it, and stay outside of the city. Is that right?
I'm not able to speak for something that happened 15 years ago, but it's my expectation that they would have applied for an annexation the same way many of our other neighborhoods have after they began the process of the reviews.
Oh, okay. So just the project died and then that was end of it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I think it was the housing recession.
all right, any other questions? Jeff, have you got anybody that's raised their hand?
No, sir, not this time, Mr. Mayor.
Let's go to Darcy. Darcy, have you got any emails I haven't asked you tonight?
I do not.
All right, then I'll move the council to page, let me close the public hearing. I'll move the council to page 65 in their agenda and ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham, North Carolina for 41.81 plus or minus acres off Moore Street and Cheeks Lane.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
I second.
Thank you, Councilmember Hall. I'll poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Thank y'all. Next, we'll go recommendations from the planning board. A is a public hearing, RZ 2008 Scott Industrial. And let's see here, if anyone is in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate you wish to do so by raising the hand feature in the Zoom, or if by telephone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674. Nathan, I think you're handling this for us, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a request by the city to rezone the property. The property is currently under cultivation and would remain in present use farm value. The stated reason is to align the use of the property with the future land use maps employment district. And as the council is aware, this parcel was originally and has remained a portion of the North Carolina Commerce Park, with the hope being that an employer will locate on this parcel.
Questions for the staff? I'll start with Councilmember Talley.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Hall,
I have no questions at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No questions.
Councilmember Wiggins.
No, sir.
Jeff, have you got anybody that wants to speak on this?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Then we'll close the public hearing. We'll move to page 78 on the council's agenda and ask the council for a motion, please.
I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I see the application is from Nathan. So I assume that this is the staff's going to the property owner and saying, hey, we want to make sure that this isn't going to be marketed for residential and to be marketed for industrial for the Commerce Park. And so he contacted the property owners to do that. Is that correct, Nathan?
Yes, ma'am. You made a number of safe assumptions there. And in fact, it does appear that the property owner and some other adjacent shares in that property are all online and chose not to speak thus far.
Okay, so I guess my question is, when you have these industrial parks, what I have seen them do is contact multiple owners and make sure that, it's being marketed, I guess, collectively. Are there some holdouts, or is everyone pretty much in that industrial park on the same page now? And no one is like doing their own separate deals kind of thing?
I'll take care of it, Nathan. It's about 1,200 acres, so we do have some that are holdouts. We do have some that are not participating with the county, in the cities of Mebane and Graham's efforts to develop it with a particular company. In fact, I think we've got two independent companies working to develop speculative buildings in the park. And then we have some landowners that have their properties listed with independent realtors. We have a rapport with folks that are both participating and are not. As Nathan said, we have several of those individuals that are attending our meeting tonight. There are several folks in the same family, then some that are not. But we try to maintain a rapport even if folks are not actively participating, because projects come on us quickly and we need to be able to approach these landowners and have some information, some of the things out of the way. And speaking of having things out of the way, one of the things for site certification is having zoning taken care of. Many companies want to come in and they want shovel-ready sites. You know, time is money. They don't want to spend 2 months in a rezoning process. Proactively rezoning this to light industrial does one of two things. It checks that box, saves a company time. It also would make the process a little easier. If we waited, you know, a few years and rezone this, now we've got 185 neighbors that will have concern. And that's 185 letters we have to send out. So it makes some sense to go ahead and proactively rezone this, because that's the direction that we intended for the Commerce Park, to be an employment center. And we will need some type of industrial zoning to effectuate that goal.
The only
Well,
other piece there
as
that I apologize that staff has discussed was that it's important that before any lots are sold in this subdivision, that folks recognize that they are next to the North Carolina Commerce Park. And so the zoning map is something that a real estate agent should be sharing with somebody who's purchasing a home, whereas the future land use map or our North Carolina Commerce Park map or the Alamance Industrial Development Zone, those are more nebulous things versus the zoning map that is a legal document that should be shared with somebody when they're purchasing a home.
Well, you know, I very much appreciate you taking the initiative, Nathan, to do that, because I'm very big on property rights. And I just feel like, you know, from this last situation with Tony Tate and the situation that happened, where now part of the industrial park is now going to be developed for residential houses, that could have been avoided had we taken this step to talk to property owners and make sure that we had them on board for developing to both their best, to produce the best product for the area, and both to their benefit and to the property owner's benefit and to the city's benefit and to the neighborhood as well. But I think leaving them out of the process, and I think just causes a lot of problems. So as much as we as a city can work towards including them in the process and making sure that we're all kind of on the same page and communicating well with them, I think that that's a much better thing. So I appreciate you reaching out to them and getting this, taking the initiative to get this rezoned to industrial, so that everybody, like you say, is on the same page. I was just upset because these developers had spent almost a year trying to get this developed, and this lady has a right to be able to sell it to whoever she wants to. And I don't want us as a city to be someone saying, oh, I know you've spent all this money and time and energy, $100 and some $1,000, but we didn't really envision that's what was going to happen with that person's property. It's not for us to say that if we didn't do the work ahead of time. So they have a right to be able to sell that property to whoever they want. And I hope you can appreciate that that's where I was coming from. So I'm very pleased to see that you took the initiative to contact this property owner and make sure that this didn't fall under the same situation.
I will defend the staff on that. They have been working on this for years, trying to get this property to be rezoned. People were hesitant to do it because they feared the taxes that they were paying would go up, which it is not. It will be the same tax value or same taxes that they had before. So they have been working on it. It's just the owners were reluctant to do it. But this residential move into the Commerce Park has scared these people, that knowing that their land value could go down because the residential has moved next to it. So yes, I'll defend the staff on that. They've been working on this for several years. All right, is there any other discussion or any other questions for the staff? Jeff, has anybody raised their hand or wanted to speak?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Darcy, have you got anybody?
No, sir.
Then I'll close the public hearing. We'll talk about among ourselves here. Does anybody have any or other questions or concerns? If not, then let me move you to page 78 on your agenda, and I'll ask you for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the application be approved. The application is consistent with the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Rezoning the property would be in consistence with the Employment District Type Policy 2.4.1 and will allow land uses which are likely to attract employment opportunities within the city of Graham, Strategy 2.2.1.
Mr. Mayor,
I
I
need a
second the
second.
motion. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Let me poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Thank y'all. Good discussion. Good questions, Jennifer. Next, we'll go to B, public hearing, CR 2004 business on West Elm Street. And let's see here, let me read this. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate that you wish to do so by raising your hand in the feature in Zoom, or by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 to provide comments to be read. I think, Nathan, you're handling this for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a request to rezone the subject property from I-1 light industrial to CB conditional business. The applicant is proposing to maintain the front setback line of the subject property at the front of the building line of the existing structure. The proposed uses for the new zone would include all uses listed within the general business B2, and the rear and side yards would be as required by the B2 zoning. The property is currently vacant, but has plans to be used as a contractor's office with no outdoor storage. And I will say that there are a fair number of properties that are like this where you can even see a few in the aerial image before you that are closer to the street than would typically be allowed. And as the council is aware, making non-conforming structures has fairly significant cost ramifications, particularly if somebody wishes to pull a building permit on it or if any damage occurs to the structure. And I believe the applicant is here if the council wishes to ask any questions of them.
Thank you. Question for the staff. Mayor Pro Tem, please.
No questions.
Councilmember Hall.
Well, None at this time, sir.
Let me back up one here. Nathan, the only thing that makes this building non-conforming, it was conforming years ago, but they widened the road. Is that correct?
It could be, but the front yard setback for light industrial is larger than it is for many of our other zones. And I don't believe that, I wasn't here and don't know how the widening went, but it would be difficult for me to see a 50-foot front yard for this parcel. I suspect that it was built prior to the 50-foot front yard requirement for a light industrial piece.
That's correct. And it has been widened significantly. No question.
Okay. Councilmember Hall, does that stir anything for you?
No, sir.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Talley, questions for the staff?
I think Chip's correct. Jerry, we've been here a long time. We're the old timers, I guess, but
Yeah.
that thing's been there, I think, long before anybody put any front setback on that thing. And I'm sure Webb Avenue, it wasn't as wide as it was, as it is today. So don't really fault the property owner for having a non-conforming building. He's just trying to make corrections, and he's done an excellent job. What's been over there for years, it's the old Apple property, if you remember, and he's done it looks like he's really cleaned it up and made it a lot nicer. I'm glad to see some redevelopment happening there on that side of town going coming into Graham. So yeah, I've drove by there and seen what they've done. So I'm actually quite impressed.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Wiggins, did I ask you if you had any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that covered everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Jeff, have we got anybody else that wants to speak on this?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, not at this time.
Darcy, have you got anybody with email?
No, sir.
Then I'll close the public hearing. We'll talk about it among ourselves. I think Jennifer is exactly right and Chip is exactly right. The building has come, the road came to the building, not the other way around.
That's correct. That building's been there probably before you and I was in this world, and that is a long time.
Mr. Mayor,
Speak for yourself. Yes, sir.
is the public hearing closed?
I did close the public hearing. Have you got someone that wants to speak?
You have one.
Let's open it and allow the speaker. Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Yes, Jeff.
Brian, you've been unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I won't add anything, just to say if you all have questions of me or Mr. Duggins, we're here and available. But again, invite your questions and appreciate your considering this.
Mr. Moffett, would you give me your name and address, sir? I know I've met you and I appreciate
That's
you.
fine. It's Ryan Moffett. I'm an attorney at the Vernon Law Firm. Our address is 522 South Lexington Avenue in Burlington, 27215. I'm representing the applicant, Jeffrey Duggins.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions for Mr. Moffett? All right, good deal. Anybody else have anything to add about this? If not, I'll move you to page 84 on our agenda and ask for a motion.
Jerry, can I get you to reclose the public hearing?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We will close the public hearing. I have closed the public hearing, and now I'll move you to page 84 on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the application be approved. The application is consistent with the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Actionable is reasonable in the public interest for the following reasons. Permitting this conditional rezoning or conditional zoning will create a conforming structure and allow for future expansion in alignment with policy 2.1.5 and 2.4.2.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Mr. Mayor, I second it.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Everyone second that. I'll poll the council. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. All right, good luck with this. Thank you for meeting with us, Mr. Moffett. We appreciate your time. All right, next we're going to go to 3C, recommendation from the plan. This is a quasi judicial, and I think I'll read this and then we'll go to Brian and let him explain the quasi judicial. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674. Now I'd like to call on our city attorney, Brian Coleman. Brian, if you review the quasi judicial for us, please. Brian, are you with us?
Unmute, Brian.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This hearing is a quasi judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it's like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decision. These rules are different from the other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The council's discretion is limited. The council must base its decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. It is a decision that must be based on the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. This meeting is open to the public. However, participation is limited. Parties with standing have rights to present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. The applicant, the local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages. General witness testimony is limited to facts, no opinions. For certain topics, the council needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include predictions about impacts on property values and predictions about impacts on increased traffic. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. With regard to admissibility, any and all evidence that is admitted and received by city council tonight will be deemed objected to without specific objections. And lastly, witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony.
Thank you, sir. I need to poll the council to see if you have any reason that you cannot vote on this. I'll start with the Mayor Pro Tem.
No, sir.
Councilmember Wiggins,
No, sir.
Councilmember Talley,
No, sir.
Councilmember Hall,
No, sir.
and I have no reason that I could not vote for this. If anyone wishes to present or give testimony and/or evidence during this quasi-judicial public hearing, please indicate you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. I will ask the IT manager, Jeff Wilson, to promote those individuals to the meeting now so that they may be sworn in by the city clerk, Darcy Sperry. Are you ready, Jeff? Have you got anybody?
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we got 3 people, Penny, Carla, and Glenn. They've all been unmuted and can hear you.
Thank you. And I'll move to Darcy Sperry, our city clerk. Darcy, if you would.
Darcy, before you begin, this is Nathan Page. I'm also going to be swearing in at this time. I wasn't able to raise my hand.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you are about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Yes.
Okay, so we polled everyone. Did everyone answer?
You want me to go through each one, Mr. Mayor?
Please do.
Penny, please respond.
I do.
Glenn, please respond.
I do.
Thurman D. Smith, please respond.
I do.
Carla, please respond.
I do.
That's everyone, Mr. Mayor.
Nathan?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. All right, now let's go to who is handling this for us.
I'll go in the office.
Mr. Mayor, that's myself. I just wanted to bring attention to one item before we got started, that although the planning board made the recommendation that all roads in and out would be public and main points of ingress and egress, the Public Works Director made the recommendation that because these roads were going to serve the private development and or a private commercial item in front, that the roads should be consistently private or consistently public throughout the development. And his recommendation was that they be consistently private. This is a request for a special use permit for a dwelling townhouse for property located at 1501 South Main Street. The site is currently vacant. The site is approximately 6.2 acres. The plan would permit up to 65 units. The layout would be accessed off of Highway 87 and would maintain the commercial frontage between the townhome development and Highway 87. A landscaping buffer has been proposed along the exterior of the property with a type A buffer to be installed. And I will note that during the previous public hearing before the planning board, the developer had agreed to a 40-foot exterior to the property line setback, as well as 29% of the project would be in open space.
Questions for the staff? Start with the Mayor Pro Tem, please.
Yes, sir, Nathan. I see where we have a future use of Zone B2 in front of between NC 87 and the project. That's for future business, correct?
Yes, sir. It maintains the existing zoning at the location.
Okay, what size is that lot?
There's an engineer who designed this plan. I'd only be able to give a ballpark estimate, but it is, it's not tiny, but it wouldn't support City Hall.
Okay, so you don't know how deep it'll be or how the length of it or the approximate acreage of it?
As I said, the engineer who designed this plan is present and would be able to answer that. I would guess that it's approximately 150 feet deep.
Okay. All right, is he on now?
I believe she is, sir, and she's sworn.
Okay, could she answer that question for me real quick?
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Who was it?
Penny?
Penny, when you come on, give us your name and address, please, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Penny Sakadlo. I'm the principal civil engineer at Penny Engineering Design, 9220 Fairbanks Drive in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could you tell me what size this business lot is?
What size the business lot is? I'll measure
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
The business lot is 250 feet deep.
What's our length on it?
The length on it, without the roadway, the length of it is about 250 feet also.
Okay. Another question. I see the adjoining properties are also B2, but you have a stub out to each one. Do we really need that stub out going into each of the business properties that's bordering this property?
That is a conscious decision by the developer, which is to provide some sort of walkability, interconnectivity without these neighbors in the commercial property always having to get out onto 87. That there's some sort of service road behind there that takes the burden for local traffic off of 87's through traffic.
Okay, well, we have two entrances going into 87. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Another question I have, and I think this will be my last question. I'm looking here on the plat or the plan, and it looks like you got a 45-degree stub out going into the B2 zone. Can you tell me why that is?
That is a dumpster location, which
Okay,
we
well,
would
if I'd
like
looked at it a little bit closer, I'd been smart enough to figure that out, wouldn't I?
No, it wasn't labeled. It should have been labeled. My
But
apologies.
that's quite all right. It just looks like a stub out at a 45-degree angle, and I just thought, what in the world is that for?
I got you.
So that dumpster location is for the development. Is it going to come into play as far as developing the B2 for a business?
We anticipate it would serve both functions.
Okay, all right. Okay, ma'am, I appreciate your time. I think that's all my questions. Nathan, do we need this, do we need these stub outs going into the adjoining properties?
Mayor Pro Tem, it is my highest recommendation that we maintain that access management along the exterior corridor of 87. I am certain that, like many of you, I've been at AutoZone and they didn't have the part that I needed and I had to go to O'Reilly's. And here in Graham, that means you got to take a left turn on Highway 87 across 3 lanes of traffic to then get into the adjacent parcel. So it's a goal of ours to reduce that as much as possible, left turning onto Highway 87, particularly for, as Ms. Sacaldo said, those hyper-local trips wherever possible.
Well, I mean, as you know how I feel about these things, they can cause problems too. And that can cause a lot of trouble when to me, that can cause problems. That's an opinion, but I understand it's not really a deal breaker for me, but I've not really liked stubbing things out. Well, that's caused us headaches before, but that, okay. Thank you for your answer.
I told somebody I need to move my mask when I laugh at you because you missed that dumpster thing.
I did do that. I will admit it. I can see little dumpster pictures now, but it didn't dawn on me that was a dumpster pad.
Let's go to Councilmember Hall. Have you got questions?
No, sir.
Councilmember Wiggins, have you got any questions?
I do. Actually, since we've talked to Public Works and now we're talking about either public or private, what kind of impact will that have if you're going to do B2 and future business on the front of this property? If all this is private, does that mean what it feels like that means is that now you can't come into that property in those businesses down those side roads. Is that correct? Or does that still allow us to get into those businesses and then the other entryways? I guess traffic would be stopped at that point.
So that's a wonderful question. The existing language of the ordinance requires some recordation of cross-access easements for the purposes of future development. And so if I don't think it's likely, but as an example, we'll use the AutoZone and the O'Reilly's just because they're present. If there was an O'Reilly's on the south side, when it was developed, it would have some rights to be able to use this uniquely for regular resident traffic. You couldn't have an 18-wheeler, you couldn't have a delivery truck, you couldn't have your trash truck drive through there. It's just those light duty cars that most of us drive. Jerry, you couldn't drive the fire truck on there other than that it's for a public purpose. And the same thing would be true to the north side for if and when O'Reilly's were developed there. The other piece is that presumably the developer would be writing into the HOA some sort of agreement about a shared use and the expenses for that front portion. We've talked here many times how a fast food restaurant doesn't generate the same number of trips as a fast food restaurant when one of those is a Subway and the other one is a Chick-fil-A. And so you can see how if a Subway were to locate on this parcel, the developers may require that they provide some relatively small portion of the price to maintain those roads if they were chosen to be private. However, if a Chick-fil-A were to go here with its 10,000 vehicles per day, it feels like, that would probably have a higher standard that the developer would expect that commercial parcel would pick up.
Excellent. Thank you. And by the way, if we have intentions of Chick-fil-A, let's go ahead and approve it and get it done. I mean, Chick-fil-A is Chick-fil-A. We need Chick-fil-A. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Melody. Next, Councilmember Hall.
I have nothing, sir.
Councilmember Talley.
I apologize, Ms. Talley. It appears you're on mute.
Nathan, back a year, well, it's been a year, 2 years maybe, 2 years ago, when River Mill was having so many problems there on Highway 87, DOT, I think, did a traffic study there and basically blocked the entrance coming into the school, which is just right down the street from this location. I remember the principal when he explained to us, because I really didn't get why having one less entrance was making it safer, but and because it seemed to bottleneck all the traffic. I think you remember the very first week of that implementation, the cars were stretched all the way back. For at least a mile. And then they started, so the school ended up having to do something different and start staggering the start times. I think they have 3 different start times in order to handle that. But I'm just curious as to why we would have 2 entrances going into this development for 65 houses, which again would stop traffic on 87. When the school wasn't even allowed to have 1 entrance off 87, and that was ended up being blocked, and you could only use it for Hersey's barbecue. And they put the ballards up and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just curious, were you privy to that that safety analysis that they did that said that they were trying to limit the entrances on 87?
I have participated in very similar conversations, and as you're aware, in my role as the planning director, I serve on the Burlington Grand Metropolitan Planning Organization Technical Coordinating Committee. And in fact, this intersection of Swepsonville Road, Nick Street, and South Main Street, Highway 87, is one that was submitted for scoring and has gone on to be scored by the state, the hope being that they'll make this into an intersection that's not quite as dangerous as it is right now. However, the fire code requires redundant access for anything that has greater than 30 dwelling units in it. And so this development had more than that 30 dwelling units and was therefore required by the fire code to have a secondary entrance. There's some discussion about if the northern one is a private road, perhaps you could do something along the lines of what Woody Drive did, where it curves over around the backside of Watercourse and is gated most of the time, because that northern private road would dump you in some proximity to the intersection of Swepsonville, Nex, and South Main Street, whereas the southern portion would have you after the lanes already merged and Main Street was calmer because some of that traffic separation for the two forks had already occurred. So I hope that I answered your question there. The other piece about Rivermill was that Rivermill also had frontage on Cheeks Road, or Cheeks Lane, and this particular parcel doesn't have any other road frontage anywhere else, and NCDOT is required to provide an access to their lots, regardless of how difficult it would be for NCDOT to provide that access.
So you said if the development has more than 30 units, it is required to have two emergency exits?
It's required to have redundant access.
So it is required, not preferred.
It is my understanding that it is a requirement of the fire code to have those two entrances.
Because I thought when I read that, it just said if forget the exact wording, but I believe that you can still just have one emergency exit and a second one is preferable if that's available. But I didn't think that it was a requirement, but I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not giving you my interpretation. I'm giving you Bo Russell, the fire inspector's interpretation.
But I mean, what I'm saying is there an ordinance that says that there has to be two ins and outs? Because I remember this coming up with Steelcrest subdivision, and they ended up saying, I remember looking at, I mean, something could have changed since that discussion, but I believe it was something that is left open to interpretation.
I'm telling you that our fire inspector doesn't read it that way.
Okay. So the other question is, how does the staff feel about the private street? So I assume that they would not be getting any kind of city services and no street maintenance whatsoever on the street. It would all be privately done through the homeowners association.
Yes, and in many circumstances, the city has ardently fought against private streets for single-family neighborhoods. However, the townhomes are viewed a little bit differently than, say, like Riverwalk is, where both of those neighborhoods, you're comfortable in the assumption that a homeowners association will be around forever, and will be required to have some legal requirement of maintenance. We're seeing that requirement beef up over time, as in particular, the stormwater control measures are the tail that wags the dog, so to be. They are requiring that these homeowners associations have maintenance fees that maintain their existing infrastructure, and that they can't go away the way, like, I know that your house and my house are in historic neighborhoods, and they may have had some sort of HOA at some point in time, but they don't have anything now. You cannot do that for this location. There is a recorded stormwater operations and manual agreement that is between the city of Graham and the development that runs with the land and has to be maintained by them in perpetuity. So with that structure being in place, there's some more comfort with the city saying, due to the nature of this neighborhood, a private road would be acceptable in this particular circumstance, despite the fact that if this was your traditional detached single family, that it would be, we would still maintain and ardently fight against making them public streets. Excuse me, making them private streets in that circumstance.
Okay, and the smallest lot size would be on here?
I'm not able to answer that question. That would be something for the engineer, but as a townhome development, it's typically just the interior walls plus a little bit. So it's a little bit misleading given that it's a townhome development.
But you don't know the lot size?
It's as presented before you. And the
No, I
engineer would have to tell you the size of whatever the smallest proposed subdivision would be.
Is the developer able to do that?
Yes, this is Penny Sicadlo again. The interior lots are 22 feet wide, and the approximate depth of the lot is 70 feet plus.
And do they have driveways?
These do have driveways. There is a garage, yes.
Okay, so, and the driveway would be how big?
Are you asking what the width of the driveway was?
Yes, 12 feet?
It's 10 feet, I believe, a 12-foot garage.
So you'll have 12 feet of front yard?
Yes.
So, and are they all built on slab?
These will be slabs, yes.
And they're all single story?
No, they're 2 stories.
2 story. And do you know what the approximate square footage is?
I don't right off the bat. Carla may have that information.
And do you know the average sales price?
Councilmember Talley, the price of the unit would not be permissible to discuss at this time. That's not something that we can bind our decision on, and therefore you're welcome to ask that question if you want, but it would have to be stricken from the record and could be seen as biasing the jurors in this discussion.
Okay. So it's 2 story, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you know the square footage?
I don't. Carla may have that.
I have it. The square footage is right about 1,700. It does vary slightly depending on the elevation that the purchaser selects.
Carla, go ahead, give us your name and address, please, ma'am.
Sorry, Carla Sevilla. I live at 1015 Pinehurst Drive in Chapel Hill.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else, Jennifer?
Yep, that was it.
Okay, I've sort of forgotten where I was. Ricky Hall, have you got any other questions?
No, sir.
For the staff and for the builder? Melody, did you have any further questions?
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I do, Mayor. Back to Nathan. Nathan, these street connections to 87, the DOT controls those, correct?
Absolutely, 100%, sir.
Okay, so the reason is, I mean, they control how many entrances and the exits you get also, right? Most of the time they do.
Yeah, so in this circumstance with the fire department requiring that there be 2, NCDOT would grant 2, but they may require that the northern one be gated as we discussed.
Okay, let me ask you, private, public. The city won't take these on as public streets, I understand that. But if the developer wanted DOT to take this into their system, that could happen and they would become public, correct?
The city could determine to make these public and or, well, I guess not and. NCDOT could also determine to make these public streets.
Yeah, I mean, if the developer asks the state to do that, it could become a DOT maintained streets. Is that correct?
I believe that is true, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Nathan, may I interject here? DOT generally does not take on public streets through commercial property.
Thank you, ma'am. I learned something. I spent 30 years there. Thank you.
I'll have to take my mask off and laugh at
Yeah,
you.
laugh at me again.
All right, any other questions? I do need to hear from Glenn Patterson. Mr. Patterson,
Yes, sir.
how are you, sir?
Doing well. I hope y'all are.
We are. Thank you, sir.
Good.
Have you got anything to offer? Anything to add?
Not really. This is a great plan for this property, in my opinion. When I saw this plan originally, I literally fell in love with it. It keeps the commercial on the front. This is my neighborhood, as a lot of you know, and where I grew up and still live, and I really like this plan for this neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Peterman,
Yes, ma'am.
may we get Mr. Patterson to give us his address, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Glenn Patterson, 885 Sheets Lane in Graham.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else
Jared,
got any? Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Penny said earlier about that DOT doesn't take the public road. Is she talking about that, the section around the future use zone B2 lot?
I was talking about they generally don't take on roads that go through townhome developments, nor would they generally take on a connection road to a commercial property when they have full access to an existing DOT road.
So that section of road that goes beside the commercial on both sides, would that be something that the HOA of the townhome development would be required to maintain?
It would probably be a master homeowners association, and then there would be interconnectivity and cross-access agreement between the commercial property and the townhome property. And that can easily be labeled a private street.
Okay, so I mean, we don't know when that future use is going to be developed. And so if, assuming the dump trucks, which do tear up roads very fast and very easily, when they come down that public road there on the left and then go to those dumpster pads and dump, is that something that from the onset of this development, that road all the way to 87 is going to be maintained and under the control of the homeowners association?
Yes, that is correct. It would all be handled that way, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that that's part of the whole thing and not like separated out with the possible development in the future. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? All right, I'll go to Jeff. Jeff, have you got anyone else?
I think everyone's spoke. Mr. Mayor, has Thurmody spoke yet?
Does anyone else have anything to add? Let's go that way.
I have not spoke yet.
Yes, ma'am. Would
This
you
is
let us have your name and
Thurmody.
address, please?
They're Mandy Smith, 309 Forest Drive, Graham, North Carolina.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have a few questions because as you can see, that whole far right corner is on my, lined up with my property.
Okay.
I do have animals. and trees are not going to keep my animals from coming over into that development. And I'm wondering if there's any chance that anyone would assist me in building a solid fence.
And that's a question for the builder. I guess we could ask them if that's a question for you, but,
Where's her property at? Oh, okay, I see it.
And it goes around the corner. And can someone tell me what SCM stands for? Because I can't read the map.
So an SCM is a stormwater control measure. I should point out that in the city, it's the property owner's responsibility for maintaining their animals on their own property.
Yes, I understand that. I was asking if anybody was willing.
Miss Thurmond, this is Carla Sevilla. I am a representative of the builder as well as a broker in the community. I do think that would be something that we could consider as a privacy fence along the back units between 25 and 30. But a privacy fence is very different than, a fence that is to control animal movement.
Right.
So it might be best to potentially have you fence your own property so you could fully enclose that perimeter.
Okay.
Ms. Smith, have you got any other questions for him?
I'd like to know when they plan on starting if it's approved.
It all depends on the approval process, and typically there are delays with weathers and permitting and things like that, but there is a very strong demand for this townhome product. We have been successful in our Graham community in the past 2 years, and we do have a wait list of people who would like to have a product similar to what we have sold last year. So depending on market conditions and weather, we would get started, as soon as the appropriate approvals are in place.
Is there any way that you can give me estimated so that I have time to put a fence up?
Yes, ma'am. When we, if we get approvals, and we're hoping we do, we'll be in communication with you, and I'll be happy to give you my direct line so we can give you updates as we, move towards the project.
Okay.
Is that everything, Ms. Smith?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you being here. Anyone else, Jeff? Darcy, have you got anybody?
Carla, you had your hand raised. Did you have anything else?
No, I believe I addressed it. I just wanted everyone to know about the demand in our market here in Graham. We had a significant amount of people who enjoyed our product at Southwick. I encourage, if you guys ever wanted to see it, it turned out amazing, and we would love to continue to be part of our Graham community with this new Bethany Towns.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think that's everything, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on the council got anything to add?
Mr. Mayor, before we go to that, as part of the approval, if you want something different than what was shown on that site plan with the public roads surrounding the B2 as requested by the planning board, that would have to be made as part of the motion. So for example, the motion would be to approve the special use permit with all private roads or all public roads or some portion thereof.
Okay, does everybody understand that? Then make sure we get the motion right. I'll move you to page 22 on your agenda packet. And
So Jerry, was the issue about the fence resolved?
it was resolved for Mrs. Smith's satisfaction that Carla would get back with her and they would discuss the options. So are we going to make her put a fence in as a condition? That's up to y'all. In my opinion, no. I think is Carla Sevilla. I think she can get in touch with Mrs. Smith and they can take care of it. Did everybody else hear that as I heard it?
So Jerry, I wasn't at the planning board meeting. What was
You
the
were not
main
supposed
reason?
to be at the planning board meeting. This was a quasi judicial. So if you were at the planning and zoning board meeting, you should have told me. But go
Well, I
ahead with your.
I wasn't. So
Okay.
my question is, do you know what the reasons were for why they wanted it to be public roads?
I'll go to Nathan with that. Nathan, do you have a reasoning for that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I believe the planning board was reflecting back upon our previous discussions wherein the city staff has recommended against private streets. But as we discussed in this circumstance, it's a much different townhome development than, say if like Old Farm were to be developed with private streets. We believe that in a neighborhood much like Old Farm, that 10 years or 15 years down the line, that those folks would come and apply for making their streets public, which would saddle the regular taxpayers of Graham with the additional debt of bringing the original streets up to standard. In this circumstance, we believe that the HOA will be strong enough to maintain not only their stormwater control measures, as we discussed, but also all of the private roads. And of course, if an AutoZone or an O'Reilly's were to be there, we wouldn't maintain any of their infrastructure. That would all be on those developers to deal with.
Is the private road going to be up to the city standard?
I'd have to defer to the engineer on that one. We don't have a requirement for the paving course, for example, for a private road, but we would recommend that they use our paving course. They may choose to default to NCDOT's paving course or something else. That portion is unlikely to see much heavy truck traffic, but of course, as you're aware, it'll have an Amazon truck, a UPS truck, FedEx truck, USPS truck, as every one of those people orders stuff every day.
So we could put as a condition that it can be private as long as it's built to the city standard.
That could be a condition. I think that because of the volume there, right? It's not anticipated to be a through street, and ours is for a potentially higher traffic user. You may want to default to NCDOT standard, which is slightly less stringent than our standard. But the engineer has raised their hand to speak if you wish to open back up to them.
Who is that, Nathan?
Ms. Cicaldo?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is Penny Cicatlo again.
Yes, ma'am.
Generally speaking, we do use something close to NCDOT standards for even private streets. Someone who's been in business as long as this developer and myself have been know that you build streets to last, and that's always the best choice. So I don't see any cutting corners on this one.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I think that should totally be left up to the engineer's design. They know what they got coming in there. And I don't think we should be telling them how to design their street. They know how to design those streets. They know how much truck traffic and how thick to make that pavement.
Well, that's a question for the motion when we get to the motion.
I don't think we should add that into the motion.
Okay. Anyone else got anything? Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Smith did raise her hand again.
Ms. Smith.
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I do have a question. I guess it's for Carla regarding the privacy fence. Can we talk about that?
I think she told you she would get in touch with you to
Yes.
one-on-one to do that.
Yes, I'm happy to get in touch with you after that. We are open to adding a privacy fence behind that back row of units to accommodate you. But in terms of the design, the length, I think that's a conversation you and I should have offline.
Okay, and how are you going to know how to get a hold of me?
My phone number is on the Glenwood Homes website, so you're welcome to call me anytime.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Is that all, Ms. Smith?
I just wondering if it can be moved a little further away from my property line. It's 40 feet and they have quite a lot of room in the front that they could adjust that.
I'm not sure how to address that. I'm not the engineer that designed the site plans, so we can look at accommodating with a fence, but the location and that would need to be, confirmed once approvals are in place and we know more about the site work.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Does any other council member have any questions? If not, then I'm gonna move you to page 92. Jeff, if you got anybody else, I'll do that first before we move to the agenda packet.
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Then let me move you to page 92. We'll close our public hearing. And I ask for a motion or any conditions from the council. Awfully quiet here.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the
Make a-
application be approved with the following conditions: that all the roads be private. I move to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law as presented in the staff report. The application is consistent with the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan. The development further goals of the Graham 2035 Comprehensive Plan is in conformance with the suburban residential development type. The development meets all 6 conditions that are required by section 10.144 of the development ordinance.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank y'all. I'll poll the council first. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley.
Well, are we gonna have any discussion about that?
About,
Is there no desire from the council to make, the streets public or set any kind of standard to the street?
I think she's making a motion to go with the staff's recommendation.
But there's no standard to the street.
We don't need to be involved in street designs when it's private, Mayor. I mean, it's private. That means we have nothing to do with it. If it
Well,
comes
I
all to
mean,
pieces-
there's that,
If it
one of
comes
the
all to
biggest,
pieces, it's not ours.
All right, I have
I'm
a
just-
motion. I have a motion and a second, so I do need to move along. If you want to talk
but we
about,
can discuss it.
we've been discussing it now for 20 minutes, and
Okay,
I mean, I'm fine with more discussion, but I don't
I
think we're gonna
just,
get
I
anywhere.
just think that the number one issue that people have is street maintenance, and it ends up being an issue for, I mean, I hope that, I just don't see why we're not holding any developer. I know Glenn, and I have a lot of confidence in Glenn that they're gonna build a good street, but I just do think it's our obligation as council members to say some standard, even if it's Nathan's standard of, a DOT standard, to make it, compliant. I feel like we need to say that if we're gonna allow a private street.
Okay,
Mayor, we got a motion, and we have
I know
to
we
go through
do.
that motion through the vote.
I know we do. All right, let's continue with the motion. Jennifer, I'm still with you.
Melody, you're not willing to amend your motion?
Not at this point. We've already voted, so that would be inappropriate. We need to go forward at this point. And you can deny it, and then we can come back and do something else if you want to, but you need to move through this one.
No.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye myself. The motion passes 4-1. So we're right there. Glenn, good luck with this. We're pulling for you, as you well know. And thank everybody for being here tonight, and thank you for talking. We will hold the Penny, if you would, make sure you get in touch with Ms. Smith so we can go that direction, okay?
They're not able to speak anymore, but if Ms. Smith, if you're not able to get in touch with the developers, feel free to call me at the city, 336-570-6705, or email me. I believe we have discussed in the past, so you should have my contact information, and I'll put you in touch with them.
At my error there, I should have polled the council. I will say that Chip voted aye, Melody voted aye, Ms. Talley voted no, Ricky Hall voted aye, and I voted aye. So it passed 4-1. Okay. Next, we've got, where am I at? Now, right here. Next, we got the first reading of downtown residential parking permit. And let's see who I've got. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate you wish to do so by the raised hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 to provide your comments to be read. And Frankie Manus, I think you're handling this for us, please.
Mayor, I think actually I'm going to introduce it. Frankie might add some background to it as well. But as you stated, the requested action is to amend the code of ordinances to add a section allowing the issuance of a downtown residential parking permit within the B1 Central Business District and city-operated parking lots, and establish a downtown residential parking schedule. Just to give you a little background on this amendment, downtown Graham has seen increased interest over the past decade, and with that, there has been emerging demand for parking accommodations, particularly for downtown residents. The city manages over 300 on-street and over 400 off-street parking spaces in downtown Graham. As the landscape of downtown Graham receives additional resident development pressure, adhering to parking restrictions is a major obstacle that developers have frequently conveyed. Inasmuch, city staff recognizes the average utilization of parking within all city-operated lots is less than 40% and has never exceeded 55% for maximum parking utilization. In an effort to afford residents of the downtown the ability to park their vehicles within a city-operated lot beyond the allotted time limit, city staff is recommending offering a downtown residential parking permit that can be utilized within specified city-operated lots in the B1 Central Business District. It should be noted that the program, as currently designed, does not set aside spaces for exclusive use by residential motorists. This would be similar in function to the contractor's permit program that is currently in place. The fiscal impact is nominal. Staff time will be required to review and process application requests. A fee for permits is anticipated to be established at a later date. Staff does recommend approval. Offering such program not only encourages residential uses in our downtown, it maximizes the use of available land. In addition, current regulation on parking lots actually makes it illegal for someone to work a continuous 8-hour workday and remain legally parked in a city lot. The proposed ordinance will correct this as well.
Thank you, sir. Question for staff. Let's start with Melody, please.
I do, thank you. Under the staff recommendation, Aaron, it's a little bit confusing that we're saying that we are offering a program for downtown residential parking permit, but then your next sentence says, in addition, current regulation on parking lots actually makes it illegal for someone to work a continuous 8-hour workday and remain legally parked in a city lot. The proposed ordinance will correct this as well, which makes it sound as if this is not just residential. It sounds as if it is commercial and you are working towards allowing continuous parking for someone who is working an 8-hour workday. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually within the amendment, if you turn to section 20-156,
yes,
it's a little further in your staff report. The limit is an 8-hour time limit, and it's being changed to 12 hours. So we're actually correcting that within this amendment as well, so that myself and other staff that are working, we're not breaking the law that we currently have, which is an 8-hour time limit. So we're extending that in this amendment as well.
Okay, so when we are talking about downtown residential, you're talking about what? You almost made that sound as if, for instance, we have staff at the museum. If they are staff, that we're going to consider them as residential and we're going to give them parking permits.
If I could interject one piece, it is only for the all day lots. This does not cover any of the 2-hour parking spaces. And I believe that most of the ones near the Historical Museum and the piece that you're requesting, Melody, or Miss Wiggins, are for the 2-hour lots.
Right, and I realize that. It's just that what I'm trying to say is it looks like you're saying it's residential, but then you're saying it's work related. You made an assumption, or you went to a continuous 8-hour workday and made it sound as if some of your business owners, for instance, some of your attorneys down there are going to be able to get a permit. So that's my question, is to clean up the quote residential versus who is residential. Is it the folks who are living there above the businesses that you're talking about only?
Right. I think it's achieving two things.
Okay.
I think, yes, it's to allow for folks who reside in our downtown to be able to obtain a residential parking permit. And so that's one thing. The other thing, we are also trying to correct issue that we currently have with the our current lots, city operated lots, have an 8-hour time limit. We're also trying to amend that language to extend that 8 hours to 12 hours. So that's the residential parking permit.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Could we
No
solve
problem.
that problem with changing the name instead of downtown residential parking permit to just downtown parking permit?
Well,
Well,
if
I think
you do that, then
essentially-
you're going to look at businesses as well. The businesses are going to
Right.
the same thing.
Exactly.
All right, anything else, Melody? I'm
No, sir.
fine with,
Thank you.
I'm fine with the way you said. Mayor Pro Tem, have you got questions for the
No
staff?
questions.
Ricky Hall, have you got any questions? Jennifer, have you got any questions?
How much is the permit going to be?
That's going to be a call council will have to make. I mean, we've looked at other cities to see, what they charge for similar type setups. They do vary. I've seen them as low as $25. It's usually on an annual permit fee. So I've seen them as low as $25, $50, and as high as $250. So I guess it would be at the comfort of the city council.
Are you saying we could make in this motion that on the first reading, we could add a fee number and go ahead and take care of that number tonight? I guess that's the question for the staff.
You could. I would feel more comfortable knowing the true cost of administering the program.
Yeah.
How many folks are we going to have participating? At this point, if I gave you a number, it would be arbitrary.
Okay. Jennifer, I'm sorry, you have the floor. I apologize.
So North Marshall and Elm, that's the big lot, right?
That's the one across from Family Dollar, I'm assuming.
Across from Rich and Thomas.
Funeral home.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the North Marshall Street one?
Be north of Hardin. Those are actually two distinct lots, although they're interconnected.
I'm confused.
So if you'll turn to the next page in the agenda packet, which says the existing public parking space utilization, you look the furthest north on that map, there's a yellow outline of the parking area. That's your North Main and your North Marshall lots. That's the largest, well, if you combine the two, I think that's the largest lot we have.
So those
A
will be
certain
ones that you'll be charging for now.
I'm sorry, could
Those
you
would,
repeat that?
those would be ones that you would, if someone parks there, you'd have to start charging for those, right?
If you desired a residential parking pass, which would give you the ability to park beyond 12 hours, you would have to obtain that pass and whatever fee is required. The lot itself will not cost anyone unless you are a resident with the pass.
So people that are parking down there now, it doesn't cost anything, and it won't cost anything going forward, right?
Correct. In fact, with this amendment, they are limited to an 8-hour parking window. They can only park for 8 hours. This amendment would actually give them 4 more hours. As Aaron indicated, our current regulations, if I go to work at 8 o'clock and I don't leave until 5 o'clock, I've broken the law because I've parked for 9 hours instead of the 8-hour limit.
Okay. And then are you going to have the city parking person? Is she going to be enforcing that?
The program would be enforced by the police department, and if I had to venture a guess at this point, it would be an extension of that current program.
I really don't see how that's going to be hard to enforce, but I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with. And then you said the other place that you would allow it is Elm and North Marshall. And you're only going to allow 20 spaces right there. And those are primarily used by the clerk's office, I know. I mean, a lot of the clerk people park there. And then Hardin and Maple over there. Who does, I mean, do a lot of people park over there?
That's across from the Register of Deeds. So some folks would probably park there that are visiting the Register of Deeds. There's a barber shop nearby, probably gets a few. Mexam is across the parking lot. I park there to go to Mexam myself. And there is a restaurant that is opening just on the other side of the parking lot. So I assume there will be some parking there, but that lot is, well, most of our lots that are off street are underutilized, as you can see from that table. Our own street parking is in high demand, but our off street lots are underutilized, and that being one that's underutilized.
Frankie, we had before I remember this years ago when the city, well, when the county was building the jail and they had all the parking spots listed. Used to be that if you had a property that you were building, you had to have a certain number of off-street parking to accommodate the building, because we're in a B1, you can build all the way to the corner and, the corner of your lots. And it was a concern back then, especially you building a public building and then have no place for the public to park. It's continued to be a problem there at the Sheriff's Department. There's literally no place to park there if you're a visitor for the Sheriff's Department, unless you park on the other side. But as far as that parking lot there, where the across the Maple Street, that parking lot, every one of those parking spots are assigned. And I know that came up at the meeting. Is that still in place, or has that been deleted? If someone builds a building, are they required to have a set number of off-street parking spots?
That is the case in all districts except the B1 district. I'm familiar with the circumstance you're talking about, the county, if that's a private lot or private to the county buildings, and they have assigned employee parking to that lot. In response to some of the concern that we've heard through the years, I'm not sure all the council was aware, the lot, the westernmost lot along Maple Street that the city owns that used to be reserved for only city employee parking. We have since opened that up to general public parking. And we do see some folks that work in the courthouse or are attending court park in our lot. And to this point, it hasn't been an issue.
Which
It's
lot is
still
that?
some available parking.
What lot is that?
That's the lot, we call it the lower lot at City Hall. So it would be between Pine Street and the police department, beside the old Duke Power building. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
recall how many spots are down there, but we've opened that up to anybody can park there, not just city employees.
Okay. So in the B1 district, are you saying that there was no requirement whatsoever if you build a new building that you wouldn't have to have any kind of off-street parking? Because I thought you did.
And Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, or Aaron, B1 is, there are no off-street parking requirements.
There have not been off-street parking requirements for B1 since before I started working here. I'm not sure when that amendment occurred, but it was before my time.
It wasn't during my time either.
It's very doubtful that it's ever been required in the B1 district.
So do we have concerns because we have such limited parking? Because I thought that like there was some sort of, I remember there was an ordinance or something about if you change the use of the building to assembly, you had to have so many parking spots available for that change of use. I know I'm not crazy here because I know this came up when Chris Rollins was here because it was a church and they were saying, well, the ordinance doesn't apply because the church is exempt. But if it wouldn't have been a church, if it would have been some other use, then it would have applied.
You're correct. If there's a change in the type of use, that I call it the intensity of a use, it could trigger additional parking requirements outside of the B1 district. So the B1 still is, there are no off-street parking requirements, so it would not apply to the B1. We are attempting to address a future issue that we see with folks having interest in both developing and residing in and around downtown. We're trying to accommodate folks and give them an option to park versus parking any and everywhere haphazardly and possibly in an illegal fashion that would require additional resources to enforce. I would rather, if there's an uptick in residential downtown residences, which we anticipate there will be in the coming years, I would rather those folks have a place to park rather than parking in front of businesses all night long in the way of our street sweeper. When a business goes to open up, there's no parking for the customers because residents, downtown residents have been there all night long. So we would rather give them an outlet rather than it be a free-for-all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ricky Hall, have you got any questions?
No, sir.
Fast, you Mayor. Oh, that's not me, is it?
Phone is that?
It's not mine, mine's muted. Okay. Let's see where I'm at here. Now, this is Code of Ordinance Amendment. Let's see where we're at. Frankie's done that. All right, we're gonna go to discussion in the public. Have we got anybody that wants to speak on this? Jeff, have you got anybody?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Darcy, have you got anything?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, the city provided email. All right, we'll close our discussion. What does everybody think? What are you gonna do with the firemen, by the way? They work 24 hours, so how does this?
Good question. But we have found that firemen often move their vehicles.
Often is not good enough. Are you going to tow one of them if they don't?
No, we're not going to tow their vehicles.
I think the firemen would qualify as residents because they're spending the night in the firehouse, so they could get one of the permits at a city price.
we'll cover their permit.
We could give them a variance. I mean,
Well, he said they would cover
yeah,
the permit.
yeah, we cover the permit
issue.
No
Okay.
variance.
But that permit's only for 12 hours, so they've got to go out there and move it.
I don't think so. I think we can make them, non-conforming, so to speak. They just park there because they're firemen.
They've always
Might
been
let your house burn down if you charge them.
Okay, it was just a question I had in the back of my mind. All right, this is a change in our ordinance. And as we do this first reading, if it is a supermajority, which means 4 out of the 5, it will not require a second reading. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, and that for this is A and then B. So with that being said, if there's no more discussion, let me move you to page 93 on your agenda. And I'll ask for a motion. Didn't it,
Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance amendment to Chapter 20, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 5, Standing, Stopping, and Parking of the Code of Ordinances to allow for the issuance of a downtown residential parking permit and establish the proposed downtown residential parking schedule with an effective date of 1/1/21.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank y'all. Then I'll poll the council. I'll go to Mayor Pro Tem first.
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. That's a supermajority, so this will not have a second reading next month. All right, next and last on our agenda tonight is B, first reading, parades, demonstrations, and street events. And let's see here, let me read this. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during this agenda item, please indicate you wish to do so by raising your hand feature in the Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 to provide your comments to be read. And Frankie, are you handling this one also?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Back in July, as the council recalls, we repealed the current parade and demonstration ordinance that we had had on the books for 40 or so years. What was not known to many folks is that we were actually in the process at that time of developing a new parade and demonstration ordinance that was in response to the growing number of events we have downtown, and that our ordinances, didn't fully address those. And so many events were coming directly to the council, and it had staff and council members doing event planning on the fly as a legislative process. With that being said, the replacement ordinance is here before you, and I'll just cover a couple highlights. I won't go into all of it or all the legal reviews that we've had, but the ordinance, 4 highlights I want to point out. It establishes a special events committee, which will evaluate events that come to the city, particularly parades and street events, much like we would evaluate a development process through the technical review committee. It also establishes and recognizes demonstration options that are allowed both by acknowledgement, and those that are exempt from any notice, and establishes a free speech zone by the city, and would recognize any other free speech zone that any other government within the city has provided, such as the county. It also provides, the general staff guidance and regulation for the parades, demonstrations, and street events, and it gives us a clear delineation of what's legislative and administrative when it comes to street closures. Again, there's several things, several details in there. I'm happy to try to answer any questions I can. We have sent this through several filters, staff filters, legal filters. And I'm sorry to say that as soon as we sent the agenda out, we did notice something that slipped through the filter that should not have. Mr. Coleman may be able to elaborate, but under the demonstrations part, we should do any requirement that the purpose of the demonstration be submitted to us. So that would be something that we would request be changed in the ordinance that was presented to you guys. And I think there's just a couple of sections, couple of areas where you would strike the purpose out. That was, should not have made it to you guys. It should have been filtered out. I'll be happy to answer any questions I can. My standard disclaimer is I'm not an attorney, but so don't take my advice ahead of our attorneys.
Right off the bat, Frankie, can you tell us again where you just said those were located?
The demonstration purpose, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, is that what he was saying? The
Yes.
demonstration purpose? Okay.
Can we not strike it out completely from where it's mentioned anywhere in the ordinance or in the change? Can we make that as one of our motions if you make the motion? Would that work, Brian?
Yes, sir. As far as like removing the purpose from the anywhere where it asks for the purpose of the demonstration, I think it needs to be removed. Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll make sure that's in. If anybody makes a motion, we'll make sure that sentence is out. Is that all right, Melody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You still got the floor, ma'am.
So the traffic count in excess of 10,000 cars per day were our major roads. And those were under the Special Events Committee's disapproval. So essentially what's going to happen is this staff and committee will be able to approve a great deal of these without it having to come to the council. However, the council will look at anything where we have road closure requests for streets and traffic counts in excess of 10,000, correct?
You are correct. The 10,000 car a day is the threshold that was suggested and included in the draft ordinance. That would catch your major events on the major thoroughfares of the city. What it would not catch is your block parties. A good example of what would be left to an administrative decision would be the Methodist Church. They come before the council a couple times a year to close one block or a portion of one block of Market Street. It's normally just a rubber stamp. They know the drill. They submit the letter. They play the waiting game. They get approval. They get acknowledgement of the approval. They have their event. That can be handled administratively now and would not be a legislative action.
We also, in our events, require the insurance and all that, and I'm not really seeing any of that. Is that going to stay as a separate piece to this?
Those considerations that we've always had would still be given to any event, and the committee would handle most of that. And in fact, even those events that we would not permit the street closure that comes to the council, you're going to get a recommendation from the committee on insurances and what public safety requirements must be met. So no, those things will still be intact. Our insurance company is going to make us get certificates of insurance and additional insured certificates, or we're going to have to cover it one way or another.
Right. The other thing besides the insurance, I think that we normally do on the special events is actually security if it's needed, recommendations of that, and the trash and so forth. What I'm wondering is if that needs to be written anywhere, or do we have that currently written as part of our policy?
Well, it's referenced in the ordinance. I don't know that I would get too specific on requirements in an ordinance. For example, a liability limit of a policy. If we put in it has to be $1 million now, and then 6 months from now it needs to be 2 million, well, we'd have to come back and keep changing the ordinance every time things change. So reference to general requirements is what you'll find in most ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Talley, you got questions?
Jennifer, you're not
Unmute, please.
In section 20-179, 6B, the protest will not interfere with the right of property owners in the area to enjoy peaceful and lawful occupancy and use of their property. I just would like to make sure that one of the things that I had been asked by several business owners downtown is they want to be able to make sure that, and this was taken actually from some other ordinances, it shall be unlawful to block, restrain, or impede a member of the general public on foot or in car to freely move on a public right-of-way and to force them to listen to an unwanted message. It shall be unlawful to block or to prevent entry or exit from buildings or business establishments. And the other thing that was specific was that they would not be in somebody's area that was already provided to them in an easement or an encroachment. And as you well know, a lot of the downtown businesses have encroachments out into the sidewalk for dining, outdoor dining. And I think that I guess want to ask more of with the attorney and with the police department, and maybe Frankie, maybe y'all discuss this, but I liked this. I had made that suggestion with the specific language because it was that specific in a couple of other ordinances that I had read. Because I think the person that there's an assumption on the public that the sidewalks are public. And that is for the most part true. But when a business owner has applied for a encroachment to have an outdoor eating area, that does not give someone that is maybe protesting to come inside that dining area and force diners to hear an unwanted message. So I think that I want to make sure that the new ordinance would make sure that does not happen to outdoor diners. And some of the businesses have asked me about that specifically. And I referred to that section that I read, but I just want a legal opinion as to whether police would be able to say, no, you can't do that.
Jennifer, I won't give you a legal opinion, but if you'll look on page, I believe it's 103. I've moved the pages now. Some of the suggestions you gave us, we tried to take suggestions from many and marry them into a concise document. If you'll look in the next section, I believe it's 180, maybe D. I believe you'll see the reference to folks that have already got permission to occupy the sidewalk through the temporary encroachment permit. I think some of those, the regulations you were mentioning are married into that section.
Okay, that's what that was a big concern to business owners, because especially someone from outside of the community coming here wouldn't know that they couldn't necessarily protest in that area or demonstrate in that area. But certainly the police would have this ordinance to then instruct them, that's not an area that you can go into. You have to stay here and you have to not impede the sidewalk. So I just wanted that to be clear. And then what about is there some ordinance already that exists, maybe outside of this ordinance, that says that you cannot do any protesting or large gatherings within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, fire lane, fire escape, police or fire station?
There may be some stuff in the fire code, which is adopted by the city by reference. Don't hold me to that. I'm not as familiar as someone in the fire department is. And there could be some state law that would regulate that as well. I don't know if someone here may have some specific knowledge of that, but obviously we would try to escort folks away from those things that are needed for public safety, such as fire hydrants.
Okay. And then the last question I had was about motor vehicles and sound magnification. Sound magnification, what is, I had mentioned something about, and we've had this issue with cars and this kind of like going around Court Square and sound magnification, and people are outdoors trying to eat and things like that. And is the sound magnification with the ordinance that we have, would that also include it coming from motor vehicles, or would that just be implied, or?
So the city already has a noise ordinance, and so we try not to duplicate ordinances. So if something's covered in another section of an ordinance,
Right,
try
that's
not
what
to restate
right,
it.
right. So I'm asking you the issue of someone in their car with sound magnification coming out at an amplified volume during business hours. Would that be allowed under this ordinance? And honking of horns and things like that, would that be allowed?
So it does add some restriction, but it also allows folks to obtain a permit for loudspeakers and things of that nature. Under section 2184, that's the sound magnification section, and it does have some limit as to, I believe that's 60 decibels. So we understand there has to be some noise associated with parades and things of that nature. You have your fire trucks, you have your bands and things like that. The noise would be considered through the permit process.
Is that all, Jennifer?
But you could consider that if someone's going to use amplification to possibly put that, you take into consideration the peaceable enjoyment of the business owners and the residential people that are there at the living downtown when considering a route specific. Is that correct? Through this ordinance?
Yes, generally speaking, through the committee, when evaluating parades and street events, we want to, understand what the location, what are the potential conflicts, whether it's inconvenience, traffic, noise, public safety. The process is intended to evaluate those things and get ahead of potential issues and mitigate them where possible. But generally speaking, intent of the committee and some of the regulation here is to mitigate those things, those especially public safety concerns that we would have with events.
Okay. I thought the ordinance was a lot of hard work was put into it. So I appreciate all y'all's, everyone's time and effort. Certainly Anthony Biller, your time, Frankie. I really appreciate it. It was very well done. And I appreciate you considering the changes. Almost every one of the changes that I really wanted were actually ended up in here. So very happy with the end result.
Come here. Ricky, have you got any questions?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, Lieutenant Flood raised his hand in response to Ms. Talley asking a question about routes downtown, I believe. If you'd like to talk to him, he's been promoted.
Love to. Dwayne, come in, please, sir.
How you doing, Mayor?
Dwayne, give us your name and address, sir.
Dwayne Flood, 926 Ross Street, Graham.
And you are a lieutenant in the Graham Police Department.
Yes. So this is just addressing, I know Councilmember Talley brought up about the sound magnification, about the riding around with sound magnification coming from the vehicles and things, and kind of answer that question about the ordinance being involved in the helping with this ordinance that we have before you. Sound magnification coming to car would be covered under the city ordinance for loud noise. And then that, what we do see a lot of times is the riding around, the continuous sounding of horns. There is actually a state statute that covers that and prohibits the continuous sounding of horns around in an area at any time. So it would be addressed not only through city ordinances that are already in place, but also through state statute that is in place as well.
LT, can I ask you, does the statute also cover, or do you know the distance away from a fire hydrant, a fire truck, a police department?
All right,
What
so
that would be?
So it's my understanding on that. I'm not aware of anything that it prohibits a protest or anything from being at a certain distance from a fire hydrant. I do know that through recent training that I've just attended, that you cannot set any restrictions on blocking a protest from being a certain distance from a police department. They have a right to come protest your police and even your public safety, which would include your fire. Now, they would not be permitted to stand in any way that, like any other business, will be able to block access to the building, or for us to be able to carry out our jobs as far as like blocking the entrance to the PD where police vehicles couldn't get in and out, or things of that nature. But you do have to, especially when it comes to police department, fire department, you do have to allow for protest to occur there. Now, you can, for safety purposes, just like what's in this ordinance, require a permit to be obtained if it's over a certain amount of people, but you cannot totally prohibit anyone from being able to come in or around or near a police department from protesting, or a public building from protesting.
While Lieutenant Flood's here, has anybody got any questions for him? Dwayne, thank you very much, sir. You've done an excellent job. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Now, where was I? Ricky?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any questions, sir?
Yes, sir.
And then Mayor Pro Tem
No
Fine.
questions.
Okay. All right, I'm good with it myself.
May
All
I
right.
ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the same thing on page 103 on section D at the top that Jennifer was referring to, I guess when we start talking about that, the protest shall be restricted to the use of the outermost half of the sidewalk, and that public or other public way nearest the street, and shall not at any time or any way obstruct, interfere, or block persons entering that. What I'm a little concerned about is the Graham Soda Shop and Wits, who actually have their tables and chairs on that outer edge of the sidewalk, how that's going to work. When we go down to the press, we see their tables and chairs next to their building, so there is an outer sidewalk there. So in this case, for those two areas where we have that outdoor dining, they are closer to the outdoor side. Does that mean you're going to prohibit them from being anywhere in that area?
I think the question is if someone has a permit for the outer portion of the sidewalk. I think that's the question I heard.
It is. There is no outermost sidewalk left.
Right. But there could be some adjacent sidewalk. In other words, the ordinance would say, look, you can't come and take the space that somebody else is already in. And in this case, someone else has already obtained permission from the city to be there.
Right.
They came first. And so you don't get to protest where someone else has already obtained a lawful permit to be. So there are other places there's far more places on the outer portion of sidewalks that do not have encroachment permits. And well, my opinion is that's not an unreasonable restriction, because
Right.
You're
I just
talking
wanted to
about
make
a
it
handful
clear
of
that
square feet in the downtown that's
the
devoted
protesters are
to
not going to see
protests.
that as their outermost space was taken, so they're going to go in between the building and the seating. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I can appreciate that.
Okay.
Then that would perhaps become an enforcement issue.
Exactly.
As we move back to Melody, I'll poll the council again. Jennifer, have you got anything to add to that?
No, I think we need to pass this and move on.
Thank you, ma'am. Ricky Hall, have you got anything to add?
I agree with Jennifer. We need to pass this and move forward.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No, sir, no question.
All right, this is a discussion to the public. Jeff, have you got anybody?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
I'll go to Darcy. Darcy, have you got any emails or anything? All right, we'll leave Darcy alone then. All right.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my mouse working. No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Then on page 99, I move to approve this ordinance amending Chapter 20, Article 5 by adding Section 20-171 to 185 to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Graham, North Carolina parades, demonstrations, and street events. And I need a second.
Second.
Thank all of you. I'll poll the council. I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Talley,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. Thank you. All right, that is it for the night's agenda. So now we'll go to things not on the agenda. And I'll go to Jeff. Jeff, have we got anybody that wants to speak?
I'd recommend reading that little script, Mayor.
If anyone in attendance would like to speak during the agenda item, please indicate you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 to notify the host you wish to speak. We will recognize you at the appropriate time to speak. If you're having technical difficulties, please contact Preston Jenkins at 336-347-8674 to provide your comments to be read. And back to you, Jeff.
Not this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Darcy, have you got any emails?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Then we'll poll the staff. Aaron, have you got anything to add?
No, sir.
Nathan, please.
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Darcy?
No, sir.
Mary Fawcett?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to share with you and council from our downtown window decorating contest. We had 32 businesses who participated this year. And as you're aware, and hopefully the council is aware as well, the winners were announced at the Christmas tree lighting ceremony this past Sunday. A first, second, and third place was awarded, with first place going to Graham Travel. So that was our first year that we've tried it. I know that there's been window decorating contests in the past. I heard lots of positive comments from the business owners. It really felt like there was a good camaraderie among the downtown businesses who participated. And I wanted to give a special thanks to the Graham Area Business Association, Graham Recreation and Parks Marketing Supervisor Brandy McCandless worked with me, and then also to Leo's Creative Group for their artistic drawings, paintings on the windows. And then I'm sure somebody else would like to talk about our other Christmas happenings, so I won't steal your thunder, but I wanted to share that.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else before we go, Mary?
That's all.
Okay. Brian, have you got anything to add?
No, sir.
Frankie Manus?
Are going to hate me. Since the parade and demonstration special events ordinance is not going to a second reading, I didn't hear the motion entirely, but did it reference the removal of
Yeah, that's what I was going to
the
bring up.
purpose language that was in there on page
You're
102?
exactly right. I did not do that, and that's my fault. Let me redo that. Is that all right with the council if I reread this?
Yes, please.
I move to approve the ordinance amending Chapter 20, Article 5 by adding Section 20-171 to 185 to the Code of Ordinance of the City of Graham, North Carolina, parades, demonstrations, and street events, and drop all mention of demonstrations purpose anywhere in that ordinance?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
So,
I got a motion and a second. Let me poll council. Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, Hall,
aye.
and Councilmember Talley.
Aye.
And I vote aye. I apologize. Yeah, I had it here in a note and I just went right on back. So let's go back to Frankie. Frankie, what else you got?
I'm good. That's it.
Okay. All right. Go to Councilmember Ricky Hall. Have you got anything to add, sir?
No, sir.
Jennifer, have you got anything to add?
I just would like for you, the council, to keep Mike Jakowski's family in your prayers. He passed away today. He's been here in Graham for long as I can remember. Just very sad that we've lost him today. I also wanted to mention Benson Packingham. Jerry, you know him, don't you?
Yes.
Do you know where he lives down here on the corner of Climax and Washington Street?
You talking about Graves Packenham?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
He does such a wonderful job with his yard. He is just a wonderful resident there. He really takes a lot of pride, always decorates for Christmas, does a wonderful job. He has had 6 different accidents there. Just a couple months ago, there was an accident and he just got the repairs done from that. And then this past week, a truck came and hit the fence, the metal fencing that he has there, because he put up metal fencing because they kept hitting his house. So now they hit it again. And so I told him that I would request staff to look at that area and see if there's anything that we can do to slow traffic down. I mean, people just think that thing is a racetrack down Washington Street there. And they just don't stop for that intersection. And he is, his house, is built right up on the road. And so the first several times that cars have they've actually hit his house. He's had to have that repaired, but he's really, really, really getting worried about it, because it just seems to be happening, more and more frequently. So I don't know what we can do, but if someone could maybe look at that, I don't know if it's the police department's job or whatever, to see if maybe we need to install a caution light or a 4-way stop there or something. But the roads, the people just fly up and down that street. I know if you've been in that area, you would know that to be true.
I agree with you 100%. And Graves is a nice gentleman that we need to look after. I'll ask the staff to look into that, ask the police department to look into it. Not only that intersection, but all up and down Washington Street needs to be dealt with. And I think 4-way stops helped us on Ward Street, and that neighborhood, it truly helped us. Don't you think so, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I'd love to see
Wouldn't hurt.
stoplights on every 4-way cross there to slow that traffic down on Washington Street. So let's
It really needs to be slowed down. Especially when there's no sidewalks and kids are always walking in the street. It's really dangerous. And a big Suburban went through that towards his house. So
yeah, it took out the telephone pole too. So
yeah, it looked pretty scary.
So we can get the police department to investigate. Maybe we get some officers out there to write us a few tickets.
That would help. It's a cross street where people come off of Hardin Street and race to see how fast it takes them to get to Burlington. So, Frankie, would you do that for us, please?
And the last thing that I would like to say is I've been sick for the last more than a week, but my husband has worked so hard, and so has Dwayne Flood, and Daniel Alvis has come out and helped them as well. And I just want to say how much I appreciate what they've done in downtown Graham, all the lights and that they've installed on the buildings and really made downtown just look so beautiful. They have every single night they have worked till late up in the evening on the buildings downtown, and they've really done an excellent job. And I'm just so proud of Graham and all the participation that we have from people, and all the businesses. The managers are all saying how the customers are coming in and saying, you know, how wonderful Graham looks. And, you know, especially a lot of people that are older have really enjoyed coming downtown and looking at all the lights. So I appreciate Frankie, the mayor, everybody that's helped with making sure that all this came together. And so just appreciate Graham and love it at Christmas time.
You're exactly right. You left off Dylan though.
Yeah, Carson too. Carson has been out there. Carson's been working, so is Dylan. Yeah.
Now Dylan is Dwayne Flood's youngest son, I believe. Is that not right, LT?
Yeah, he's stuck with them.
Yep.
Yeah. They've all worked really, really hard. So, but
if y'all haven't been through downtown at night, you need to do it because it's starting to look great, and we're filling the gaps in right now, trying to get the few buildings that are not lit. The lights are there. We just got to run power to them. So we called around and got that done today, and we'll get the power to them. All right. Is that it, Jennifer?
Yes, that was it.
Thank you, ma'am. Melody, please. Melanie.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to reiterate what you and Jennifer have already said. You know, kudos to all the people that have brightened up our city in a time when things have been negative. We have turned a real positive attitude and a positive, comforting level to the community. And I think that there's been a lot of people involved, the city's staffs, Chuck and Dwayne and all the children for being on the roofs. It's very cold at night. I was involved in the first round of that, and that's a tough job. And we truly appreciate what they've done to make this city look tremendous during this holiday season. So there are a lot of people to thank, and I hope that they all feel wonderful when they turn the lights on and it gets dark, that they feel a sense of accomplishment for that, because we certainly appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir, Mayor. First of all, talking about all the good things that have happened in Graham. This past Saturday, we had the police department, again, Lieutenant Flood and Jason Moore, and the ladder truck, and I was privileged and thankful that I got to be a part of this, where we rode all through town. And the mayor was there passing out candy, and little children and young teenagers, older teenagers, young adults, even the elderly adults, I think, enjoyed it more than anybody. And I tell you, I'd give a big thanks to our police department, our fire department for this. And I mean, there again, that's just one more good thing that has come about. And I thank those guys for letting me be a part of it, and I really enjoyed it. And another thing, just to the staff, to the council, all the city employees, fire department, police department, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Know that we will have our Christmas festival coming up Saturday and Sunday nights this week, and then the same thing the following week. So it'll be almost a Christmas version of our Halloween carnival that was a drive-through. And this will be a drive-through again, but it'll be all over town. We'll still have something here at the fire department and police department, but we'll have the windows decorated uptown, everything decorated. Santa Claus will be around. During Saturday night, I think he's going to be uptown. During Sunday night, he's going to be at the fire station. So get your kids to write their letters. We'll have a mailbox here for them. If you put your return address, we will probably get back in touch with you, or we won't, he will. Santa Claus will. So we look forward to seeing you there. If nothing else, I will need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank everybody for a good meeting. We appreciate it. Good night and Merry Christmas. Good job.